Hi friends. So this is our medium mode version, which is the Greenway Court Theater. Before I started the video, I did go ahead and create a new file using my CSUN Theater template. And now I'm going to just save that into my folder. I'm going to call it Bartenstein Greenway Court. Save that. So now I have this file. You will notice that we are not right now at the center of the page, okay? We are kind of off. There's the 0 in one direction, and then we're like 300 feet off. So I'm going to just zoom to the page. That's going to place me in the center. That gives me an idea of where I am in space, and I'll come back to this point and align my theater drawing into this reality. So to bring in an AutoCAD file, and this is something that you will see in your downloads folder. You'll see the Greenway CAD assignment.dwg file. This is not a file you can just open on your computer. If you try to, it'll ask you like about Adobe Acrobat or whatever, but that's not how you open it. You have to import it into this drafting file. So we will do that now, and I don't remember what's in this CAD file, and that's usually what happens if you're lucky enough to get a CAD file from an outside source. And we will go ahead and import it, and then we will go from there in terms of figuring out what our next steps should be. So I'm going to go to import, I'll go to my downloads, and I will bring in this CAD file. It's going to have some basic options, and we're going to just let it bring it in using all of its defaults. Okay, all right. Oh, this is nice. Great. Import succeeded. Cool. So you will notice it has come in as a separate layer. I'm going to come over here to the side, pick up this layer, and drag it to the bottom. So when I hover over the page number, it will turn red and have like a little picture of a foldy piece of paper, like a transparent red foldy piece of paper. And I can then pick it up by that and drag it to the bottom. So now it's at the bottom of the stack, okay? You will see that this CAD file has some lighting positions, right? It has some stage components and some seating risers and like a seating riser here in the center section and a thrust stage. There is a door that's upstage center, and that would be in this wall, even though you can't see it. So we will use all three of these views, right? And you can see it sort of aligned the way we talked about our orthographic projection, where above, this is a front view of the set. This is a side view where you can see where the beams are coming down, right? So this is the side view of this beam shape. And then this is our top view from overhead. So we're going to now trace this theater in the context of the work that we're doing. I want to choose a position to be the like X and Y axis for our theater. And I'd like to then align the space with that X and Y axis for the actual drawing. So right now, 0, 0 is in kind of a random place, which is not the best. So I am going to choose like a center point of the drawing. That'll be, I usually make it where the center line crosses the plaster line. And I'll align my drawing to that position. So to do that, first let's check a couple of things. So one of the things that you will notice is that the Greenway Court CAD layer is actually in a different scale from the rest of our drawing. And if we open up the layer options panel by double clicking on that stack of layers, you can look inside the design layers area and you'll see that everybody is 1 to 48, which is 1/4 inch scale. And then the CAD file that just came in is 1 to 50. And in order to change that, it's actually super easy. When I'm in that active layer, I can just come up here where it says scale and I can switch to 1/4 inch scale and it will rescale that document just enough so that it'll match everything else in our show. So that's pretty valuable. While I'm on this layer, I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to create for myself. I'm going to make this my plaster line, which is kind of the edge of the stage there, and I'm going to make it a bright color so I can find it again. And then I'm going to make my center line, and I'm going to just use sort of the center point of the scenic thrust to create a center line. I'm going to go ahead and extend that out all the way to the back of the house. And we'll make that kind of that bright green color also. I don't remember which one I chose. Center line and plaster line should, if you recall, be a dashed line. You might not have ever been taught that, so I don't know how you would recall it if I hadn't told you. And so they should be the dashed line, which goes long, short, long, short. So we're going to actually switch it from solid to line type. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to look for, and it's a little hard to see because it's kind of off the bottom of your page. But if you go into the Vectorworks library for attributes and you twirl, let's find in the resource manager. Let's open the resource manager and find this. And then you can find it in that little menu right here. So when you click on this, you'll be able to use the same thing. But I'm going to go in the resource manager because otherwise you can't see it. So we go into, is it under annotations? This is where I get in trouble. Attributes, line types, select that, and then you can scroll down and get these ISO line types, and we want long dashed, short dashed, which is the alternating. We say okay. Now it's on my cursor, so if I were to draw a new line, it would be that line type, but it should also have changed. It did, right? So now you can see that those are center line style lines. And I'm just going to leave them that color so that they're a little easier for me to find in my drawing later. Cool. My next thing is going to be to make a mark at that center point. So I'm going to just pick up this whole thing and move it kind of out of the way for just a moment. And then I'm going to create a point that can be the center point of my drawing. And the tool I'm going to use to do that is called a locus. I'm going to come over here to 3D modeling, and there's this little plus sign here, the 3D locus tool. Pick up this locus tool and place that locus. Created 3D loci is not visible. Let's go into top plan view and see if it is. Okay, so a locus is not visible in regular top view, but once I've clicked and then I switch back into top plan view over here, right? Then I can select my locus and I can actually make sure that it's at 0, 0, 0 instead of randomly at -4. And now I know that this is in the center, right? Center of this drawing. And I will now pick up all of this stuff over here, right? I will select it all, pick it up by the intersection of my center line and plaster line. So it'll be like object, object, and then I'll zoom out and I'll slide that over and I'll line it up with my 3D locus. So now I know that my whole theater is centered on that line, which is where I would like it to be. So that's a great place to start. My next move, once I've set that up, is going to be to create the floor of the theater. And I'm going to do that on the theater floor plan layer. You'll notice everything gets a little bit gray, and that's because I'm in gray snap other mode, which is a good place to be. As long as you're not in a modify others mode, you should be fine. But gray snap is good because it'll give me clarity about what things are where. I'm going to start with the floor of the space, and I'm going to go all the way edge to edge, make a rectangle, okay? This will be the floor of the lowest point, not the floor of the stage. So I'm going to go ahead and create it and then move it down to the bottom of the audience floor. So I've created it now. I'm going to extrude it in the negative direction because I want my marker point to be based on the top surface of the floor. And so if I extrude in a negative direction, then I'll be moving relative to the top surface of the floor. So I'm going to just make it 6 inches thick, and that's going to send it kind of in a down direction from 0. However, what I want for my purposes in the world of I'm a set designer is I actually want my stage floor to be at the 0 level, not my audience floor. So in this case, if I zoom in, I can pull a measurement. And I just use my dimension tool because it keeps it there, but you're welcome to use, the measuring tape tool if that's your better friend. But I'm going to go ahead and pull this measurement, and it says 1 foot 5 7/8, and I am going to choose to make that 1 foot 6, just so that it's a nice round number, and for clarity and simplicity. So that means that this stage level, which will be the 0 in my drawing, and part of the reason why it'll be the 0 in my drawing is that then if I like bring in a chair or a table or a scenic piece or whatever, I don't have to adjust the floor of where that piece sits because it'll come in sitting on the stage, which is what I'd like it to be. So instead, I'm going to move this whole floor down 1'6" to get below that whole stage area. So I can do that by changing, and it says bottom Z, but it actually just means that marker. Since we are extruding in a negative direction, the bottom Z will actually become the top of the surface that we've created. So I'm going to change the bottom Z here to 1'6", and that's going to move this whole floor down 1'6" below the level of the stage, which will be my 0. Once I've done that, now I have a floor that this whole situation can sit on top of. Now I'm going to go ahead and build the stage, and then I will add the walls that fit around the stage, okay? So to build the stage, I have, and you can kind of see here, 3 steps, right? So the first step is sitting at the top, at the line which we chose as the plaster line. Then there's a step underneath it, and then there's a step underneath that. Because it's 3 steps and we know it's a total rise of 1'6", we can assume that each of those steps is 18 divided by 3, which is 6. So we'll assume each of these steps is 6 inches tall. I will start with the tallest level, right? Because that's going to be the one that fits in at the height of the walls. And there's a little bit of a discrepancy. You can see in the drawing, there's like a little gap between wall and stage. We're going to actually just fill our stage in completely around that wall. So I'm going to start here in this corner so that it fits all the way into those edges, and I was trying to move my mouse and I didn't get it, so I'm going to hit delete and try again. So I'm going to start in this corner. I'm going to pick up my cursor. I'm going to kind of zoom across. I'm going to be going from this endpoint, and if I highlight it until it turns red, then I can snap to that object and it will be that full width. So I'm going to take that shape, and then I'm going to take this shape, and I'm going to find the actual edge of the stage like that. Right, now I have these 2 pieces. I can add surface, modify, right, add surface, make that one giant piece of floor, and then I'm going to extrude it. Again, this is my stage top height, so I'm going to extrude it minus 1'6", and that will hopefully connect it to the floor. So let's go ahead and just fly over tool in a 3D mode and see how that worked. Right, okay, so that's great. So now I have that stage. For the top step, it's sitting all the way down onto that floor. That's exactly where I'd like it to be. Come back up into my top plan view, Command 5. I'm going to do the same thing for the next step down. I don't necessarily have to do this whole back area, but since I've started, I'm going to continue. And then I'll come over here and again make a rectangle that's sitting edge to edge instead of with a strange gap. And then I will make a similar rectangle that's going to sit here on top. Select them both and we'll add those surfaces together, make one big surface. This one, instead of being the 1'6", it's only a foot tall, but we're going to put it at the bottom, give it a bottom Z at the bottom piece of the floor. So I'm going to extrude it in a vertical direction of a foot. And then I'm going to move its bottom Z down to negative 1'6", and that will allow it to sit underneath the platform we already made. Right? Look at that. So cute. Back to top plan view. So now one more time, we're going to get our last step and assemble those into the stage. So let's go ahead and draw. Great. And then we'll extrude this only 6 inches. But we'll give it a bottom Z down at that lowest level again, minus 1'6". And now we should have our 3 steps. Great. Okay. Yeah, save it. Great. Thank you. Okay, so now we have a floor for the floor, like that's all the way at the bottom. We have our 3 steps, and we should now be able to do our walls. We're going to use our wall tool to add walls going around the space. So in order to add these walls, the first thing I'm going to do is give myself an estimate of the height of them. This venue is an interesting shape, right? You can see it has a vaulted ceiling. So the walls, it looks like, are actually kind of ending at this point because there will be a roof here. So we will just create walls that are as tall as that, okay? Or actually, we'll extend it. We'll extend our walls starting below the stage height so that they actually fill all of that space. So that's 13 foot, 7.5 inches is the measurement I just got for the walls. We'll remember that for later. The other relevant measurement is going to be the thickness of the wall, and it's a 9-inch thick wall. So that we need now because we're going to go get our wall tool and build some walls. So our wall tool is in the building shell tool set. You click on that, it looks like a little house. And our wall defaults right now to a theater flat that's 3 inches because I created a theater flat wall style and I gave it to you in your template file. So if you look in your Greenway Court template file, one of the things that I gave you was a dimension style, and one of the things I gave you was a theater flat wall style. So when you need flats, you have them, right? Because you have this wall that I created for you that's 3 inches thick, like a theater flat. This is not a case where I need a theater wall. This is a case for a theater flat, a pretend wall. This is a case where I need a real wall. So I'm going to actually come in here, and it's like a little pencil and a wrench. I'm going to click on that pencil wrench, the tool settings, and we're going to adjust this in order to make it an exterior wall. So I'm actually going to do that here in this component. I'm going to select the component and I'm going to hit edit, and that's going to open up this wall component settings thing, right? We're going to make this a 9-inch exterior wall, and you're going to have to name it in a couple of places for it to work. And instead of being 3 inches thick, it's going to be 9. And then the fill style will be a hatch, right? So a hatch is a pattern fill. It will not be aluminum magnesium. It will be cast iron, and that is if you go into your Vectorworks library, you flip into hatches, you hit ANSI, and then you get cast iron, and that is a diagonal line hatch, which is a standard in drafting for the theater, right? That any of our exterior walls are going to have those diagonal lines. We're going to change these to the same number. So instead of wall thickness of 0.13 and 0.25, which makes a heavier line on one side than the other, we're going to make them all 0.18. And then we will say OK, and now it will have changed it, and this wall style now has switched to unstyled because you have changed it since then. Once it has done this, we will save the preferences as a wall style, and we will give it a name like 9-inch exterior wall so that we can use it again if we need it. And we'll say, okay. So now I have a wall that is the right size on my tool, and I'm going to come in, I'll start at this corner. You'll notice that your wall tool has these various control lines up here on the top. So we're going to either start in the left or the right control line mode. I'm going to just use the right control line because I like to work from left to right. That's more intuitive to me. I'm going to start here. I'm going to start drawing this wall over, get to the corner. I click one time, right? And then I can draw the wall, and it's going to go all the way to the back edge. Double click, and it is installed, right? So there it is. Now I'm going to add a wall that goes down the opposite side, and I'll do that using the right control line. When I hover over something and it turns red, it will automatically connect it. So that's a good thing. And then I can scroll down. If I want to hit shift, that's going to help it stay snapped to that vertical alignment. And I'm going to go ahead and take it all the way to the edge of the file, even though the wall strangely stops before the end. We're going to go all the way to the end of my floor. Are we? No, we didn't, but let's go fix that. So if it didn't go as far as I wanted it to, I hit my X key so that I'm in my selection tool. I'm not in my wall tool. I'm not just drawing more walls. And then when I come down here and I hover over it and I get the 2 arrows mode, I can slide down and then snap that to the object and it will extend the wall. Okay, so now I have my 3 walls. They're going all the way around. You'll notice, there they are, but they're floating. Oh no, they're floating above the floor. There is an awkward gap. So let's adjust these walls now to go down to the very bottom of the floor and not just float up in space, okay? So right now they have a height, they have a bottom offset, right? They have a top offset. So we're going to change our bottom offset to that -1 foot 6 inches, right? -1 foot 6 inches. That's going to move the bottom edge of the wall. Now it's giving it a height of 11 foot 6, which is close but not quite what we're looking for, which is 13 foot 7.5. So we're going to actually come in here and update the height to 13 foot 7.5 inches, right? And now you've got a top offset, a bottom offset, a height, and yeah. And our wall goes all the way down to the floor, and it comes up the correct amount against the back wall there. So that's great. That wall is now happy in its place, okay? So we have a stage, we have a wall. It looks like there's a door centered here in the back. However, it does not appear in the ground plan, but it should. So let's quickly rough in where that door goes, and then we'll use the door tool to actually put it into the stage. So I'm going to just pick up my line tool. This is a good opportunity to get a fun line color, right? I'm going to hold shift, and I'm going to just trace down from that door to where it would intersect with the existing wall I just created. I'm going to change that to some silly color like orange. Okay, so that's where the door should go in this wall. The other piece of information I want to just double check is what is the width of the door. We're going to assume it's a standard door, which would be 6 feet 8 tall, and then it's 3 feet wide. So those things are all as assumed. And now I can come over here into my tool sets, and I can find a door tool in the little house. There it is, the door. So what the door tool is going to do is create a door object inside of the wall. So while we are hovered over, right, where we think this door should go, and we're going to just like line it up to the best of our ability, and then pick a direction for it to swing. And that's pretty good as far as these things go. I don't know for real what direction the door swings in, so that's something that we would want to confirm. I did just slide it over, and when I did that, it popped out of the door. I don't know if you saw it do that. So I actually want to hold shift and slide it up, right? So I've picked it up on my cursor again, and I'm holding shift so it stays in the same vertical line. And now I'm popping it back into the wall. So now there is a door in the wall. There are a lot of features that you can adjust on a door. So if you go into the settings, you'll get this whole panel of door adjustment options. Oh my goodness. Oh no, it made it the size of my entire monitor. You do too much, Vectorworks. Okay. So these are your door settings. Basics, right, are things like, let's make it this width and this height, right? Let's insert it relative to the center of the frame, which if you're on the Greenway, or if you're on the Gary Marshall Theater, some of those doors are not inserted in the center of the frame. They're offset, right? There are a bunch of different door configurations available to you that you can flip through and choose. There are pocket doors and overhead doors and folding doors, right? Swing is your standard door with a leaf that swings. There's single, there's double bipart, which are a double door, right? There are different arrangements of opening doors that you can choose. So all of that stuff is available in configuration. There's 2D visualization and 3D visualization and a whole bunch of different options that allow you to customize what the door looks like, whether it has lights on the side of it, right? Remember those from our door drafting? So those are the windows on either side. You can add those in with just a checkbox. You can adjust the trim. So if you would like the door to have trim inside the house, you can do that here. we're going to just go into the 2D visualization because we want to use the wall lines feature. So we're going to just check that draw wall lines box. And then instead of setting the attributes by object, we're going to set the attributes by line style. And these are all the sort of standard line styles for the various components. The wall lines, because they are a cut through, we want to use dashed spaced so that we get a dashed line showing where the wall was cut away for this door to go in. That's the only thing I'm going to update right now. So I'm going to just click OK. And now when I come back and look at it, you can't really see it, but there are, in fact, wall lines that exist now in the plan view. So if I turn off that Greenway Court layer, I should see them and I don't, but I'm sure that they're there. Okay, so we got our door. We got our stage set up, and we have our exterior walls that we have corrected the height of. Go ahead and save your file, and then you can submit this as the preliminary option. And then we'll come back in a separate video and we will add in the seating risers on the sides, the seating section here in the back center, the chairs, and then we'll come back for this beautiful architectural detail overhead. But for now, save this and submit it to the prelim.